Okay, so now we move on to exposing our BTCPayServer through clearnet. This is somewhat of an unorthodox approach, and it has its own positives and maybe some risks and disadvantages as well, which I will make mention of later in the video. So the approach is that we will create a domain. So for visitors to visit, we'll need a domain, and then we will need to put that behind Cloudflare, and after that we will create a virtual private server. We're going to be using DigitalOcean, and we will create a link between our BTCPayServer that's hosted on our Node Box through to the virtual private server, and then that virtual private server will then host out or be the front end to our BTCPayServer. Okay, so the first thing that I've done here is I have created a domain. I've used namecheap.com, and I've created nothing too fancy or creative, but I've just bought the domain centralbankingisascam.com, and I have just put a year's subscription on. It came to be about $11 Australian or $8 USD. So we now have this domain called centralbankingisascam.com. The other thing that you're going to need to do is to register for an account on Cloudflare. Now, Cloudflare is a free service that you can register and sign up for, and you can protect your website or your domain from any sort of DDoS attacks and potential attacks that may occur through to your website. So we will go to the section that says add a site, so we'll click that, and then it'll ask you, okay, well, what is your domain? So I'm just going to go centralbankingisascam.com, which came from Namecheap. Okay, we'll go for the free plan and confirm. Okay, so it will say where it sort of goes through to. What we actually need to do is verify that DNS records below are configured correctly. These records take into effect after you update your name servers. So what we need to do here is just make sure that we put this through to the name servers. And that'll come later, so we'll just continue. Okay, and it says here, change your name servers. So pointing to Cloudflare's name servers is critical for activating your site successfully. Otherwise, Cloudflare is unable to manage your DNS and optimize your site. So we need to remove these name servers, and we need to replace them with this. So the way that we would do that is every every domain provider will have this section on their website or option where you can change the name servers. So we're going to change them to the custom DNS, and we're going to take what Cloudflare is saying, so carl.ns.cloudflare.com as number 1, and we will make this one as number 2. So we will do that. Just save that like so. Okay, and then we will just say registrars typically process name server updates within 24 hours. Once this process completes, Cloudflare confirms your site activation via email. So we will done, check name servers, and this is going to take some time to do, but hopefully over the next 24 hours, we will have this now behind these two name servers. This domain will be now, behind these two name servers that Cloudflare has asked for. So here it'll say centralbankingisascam.com is now queued up to be rechecked. Please check back in a few hours. You'll also be notified by email once your site becomes active. So we'll just wait until that email arrives. Now, in the meantime, what we can do is create a droplet. You can sign up for a DigitalOcean account, and what you'll need to do is create a droplet. So you just go create droplet, and it'll come to this screen. Now we're going to use Ubuntu. We're going to go standard, and we're just going to use a $5 a month service or a VPS. It comes with 1,000 gigs of transfer, so which is ideal. We can use that, and so we will be basically using this as the front end to our BTCPayServer. I'm just going to click Singapore here because it's just the closest thing to me, and we're also going to ask for a one-time password. So I'll get an email. It emails a one-time root password, and we'll need that. As for the host name, I'm just going to call it VPS. You can name it whatever you want, and we will create this droplet. Okay, so that looks like it's sort of created. This is the IP address of it, so we'll make a note of that. But we're also waiting on an email to come through for the password to this VPS. So I'll make a copy of this into our node box. So here is our node box. We'll go into here, and I'll just make a note that the IP address of this in a text file is this. The username is root, and then we're still waiting for the password to come through via email. So once I have that information, I'll update that there, and then we can progress further. Okay, so that was quite quick. I received an email regarding the Cloudflare being active, so we can check if that is happening. Okay, so it says here now, great news, Cloudflare is now protecting your site. That's good. And what we want to do is go into the DNS section here, and we're going to change a few things around. But I've also received an email with respect to the password to my VPS, so we're going to log into there as well. Now, the password that I have been emailed, I will put into the text document that we alluded to earlier. Okay, so this is the username, this is the password, and this is the IP address of my VPS. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to create or use this Bitcoin tutorials from OpenNom's website or GitHub repository. So if you go into his repository here and go to the forward ports with a reverse SSH tunnel section, it'll give us some good instructions as to what we need to do to be able to progress forward. So on the host computer, which is the node itself, what we're going to do is check for an SSH public key. So let's do that. Actually, before we do that, let's log into our VPS just to see that it works. Now, the way that we log in is we will go SSH, and then in here, we will copy this IP address, and it'll be root at that IP address. Okay? And we'll say yes. And it'll ask for our password. So we're just going to copy this and paste that through. Okay, so the current password we're going to paste through here, enter, and we're going to enter in a new password. So let's just install a new password and put through the new password there. So now we have a root at VPS terminal that we're going to be using. Okay. So I've changed that password, and that's all well and good. Now let's open up a new terminal. This is back on our node box here, as opposed to root at VPS, which we can see up here. What we'll do is we will create a public key. So does our machine have a public key? And I'll just put these side by side here so that you can see. So in here, do we have a public key? So there is our public key here, so that's good. We can do that. If not, we can create one just like this, and we can use that as well. Now let's just check that this public key here is the location of this thing here. So SSH ls, and it's in there. So id rsa.pub. So we do have this. What we can do is we will copy this public key here through to our public key on our virtual private server over here, and it will allow it to sort of give it access to connect to it. So at the moment, what this command does is essentially, if you look at in the root VPS, there is a folder called, again, .ssh, okay, and in here will be authorized keys. So when we look at what's in authorized keys, there's nothing in there. So we're going to import the authorized keys from our node, which is hosting BTCPayServer, onto the VPS. So let's take let's just do that. So that's the command here, and we need to run this as not here, but in our home computer. So we will paste that through, and we will edit as required. So the IP address of the VPS, which we made sure that we know is up here, so we can copy that. And paste that through in there. Okay. And it'll ask us for our VPS's password, which we just changed. So we're going to do that. So now you'll see in our VPS, when we nano authorized keys, we've now got a line there. Okay. So that was not previously there before. Okay. Fantastic. Now we need to work on the VPS. So let's go through to our VPS here, and we will so we're already as root, so that's fine, and we will edit this config file for Sshd. So let's paste that through into our VPS, and this is a pretty big command file, but what we'll do is we'll ensure that these come through onto this file. So let's just go through them. So just scrolling through. Now, what we want here is allow TCP forwarding. So we'll remove that. So that's allow TCP forwarding, yes. So that one's done. Gateway ports, we want yes, so we'll change that. Pub key authentication. And the client alive interval, we can add that and put that as 60. RSA authentication and pub key authentication, yes. So what we'll do is, if we can't find them, we'll just copy and paste them in, but here it is here, pub key authentication, yes. So we'll do that, and we'll also, just down the bottom of it, we will put RSA authentication in as well. So paste that through. Okay. So all of those 5 are now active within this in the VPS. So we're happy with all of that. So we'll Control X out of there and save it, and we'll save it as the same name. So that's good. Then the next thing we need to do is just restart Sshd. So let's do that. Copy and paste. Okay. Excellent. Cool. Now, okay, so now we go back to our host computer, and we need to run a service file. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this service file and run it in the background. So in our Node Box home computer, we're going to create a service file, and I'm going to call it copy through here, and I'm going to call it auto ssh BTCPayServer.service. Okay, put in our password, and it will ask us to fill out a script. So we'll take this script and we'll paste it through. Now, what we want to do is put in our user, like so, and we're going to edit this text file. So what we do need is the IP address of the VPS itself. So let's put that through there, in here. And we said that our IP address was up here. So copy that and paste that. So that's our VPS IP address. We don't need any of this, but what we do need is the -R, and then we want that actually broadcasted on port 80. And our local host is, if you recall our BTCPayServer, it is on 23001. So that is this particular address here. So localhost 23001 gets us our BTCPayServer. So that's the port that we're going to expose out to our VPS. Okay. So what we'll then do is we will save this, Control X, save, yes, and this is in our node box. So sudo systemctl enable auto ssh BTCPayServer.service, and we will start the service. Okay, so let's have a look. Sudo systemctl status auto ssh BTCPayServer. Let's have a look, and what you should ideally see is remote forward success and listen 80. Okay, so this is looking good now. So effectively, what we can now do is have a look at our IP address of our VPS on port 80. So really all you need to do is just type this IP address into your browser, and you should see BTCPayServer. And there it is. Right, so you will see some warnings here, so you cannot log in over an insecure connection. We're going to fix that in just a second. But ideally, this IP address is now your BTCPayServer, so you can log in into your BTCPayServer through here. What we're going to do though is we're going to add a domain name through it. So if you recall, we had our VPS, our Cloudflare website, and we're going to add a record in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to call it an A record, and we're going to put in BTC Pay, and we'll call it btcpay.centralbankingisascam.com, and we'll put in the IP address of our VPS. Okay, so we'll put that in there like so, and we will save that. Okay, so now let's have a look here. btcpay.centralbankingisascam.com, and lo and behold, we have a BTCPayServer at btcpay.centralbankingisascam.com. Fantastic. Okay. What we want now is to make sure that we can put an HTTPS over it. So we can't log in at the moment because we're not over HTTPS. So you can see here it's not a secure connection. So let's do that. So in our settings in our Cloudflare, what we can do is go into page rules, okay, and we will create a page rule. And what we'll do is we will make it btcpay.centralbankingisascam.com, and we will say always use HTTPS, and we will save and deploy that. Okay, so now when we go to btcpay.centralbankingisascam, we can say btcpay.centralbankingisascam.com. Hopefully now that will come up with HTTPS automatically, and now we can access our BTCPayServer. So hello at, I think it was hello.com is what my username was, and the password. So we can now log in to our BTCPayServer, and we've now exposed this out through to Cloudflare. Now, one of the cool things with this is, so let's just go through some of the positives and the risks that are attached to this type of approach. The positive is that it is behind Cloudflare. So whether you trust them or not, that we'll discuss that a bit later. But at this point in time, you are somewhat protected, and your IP address is protected. So what that means is if we go back into our node box and we ping btcpay.centralbankingisascam.com. Yep. This is the IP address that it will ping to, and that will be, if you look this up, you will see that this IP address belongs to Cloudflare. So we can copy that IP lookup. Let's have a look at it. Look up an IP address, and we'll put that IP address in through here. We'll get the details, and we'll see that it is protected by Cloudflare. So anyone who wishes to potentially DDoS this website that you've just hosted out is going to have some trouble, or will need to go through Cloudflare. Now, what are the risks in this type of methodology? Well, the first thing is that you are now beholden to 4 parties. If you are exposing your BTCPayServer that will be on 24/7 out to the world, the first thing is that you are beholden to your electricity. So if the power at your house goes out, your BTCPayServer goes down. So that's, something that you will need to somehow negate or look into managing. So power outages will cause your BTCPayServer to go down. Your internet service provider as well will be, if your internet goes down for whatever reason, then obviously your BTCPayServer will no longer be hosted. The other one is your VPS provider. Again, your VPS provider is someone that you're trusting with information. So that is something that you will need to look into. And if your VPS has downtime, then obviously your BTCPayServer will also go down. And lastly, you are trusting Cloudflare. So that is something that you will need to manage, that Cloudflare is signing your HTTPS certificate here. So you can see that this is signed, I think, by, it's verified by Cloudflare. So you are somewhat trusting Cloudflare to act in your best interests. Now, the other thing that I wanted to make mention was the fact that some ISPs or some internet service providers may block your port 80. So this is a good way of getting around that restriction that some internet service providers provide. So now you have a nice way to access your BTCPayServer from anywhere, even though that it is hosted back at home in your node box. So that's quite handy. So what have we achieved here? Effectively, we've exposed our BTCPayServer out to the world. We have a nice professional looking website that we can log into, and it's going to cost us $5 a month in the VPS, as well as a domain for a couple of dollars for the year. So this is quite a cost-effective way of exposing your BTC Pay server from your home. It is somewhat protected. Nothing is obviously foolproof, but it is somewhat protected, sitting behind Cloudflare, and also behind your VPS. So enjoy it. Now, if you want notifications as to when your BTC Pay server is down, there are web trawlers out there that will periodically check whether your BTC Pay server is up or not. So what you can go to is Uptime Robot, I believe it is. So they do free website monitoring. And what that can do is you just sign up for a free account, and every 5 minutes or whatever, it will periodically check whether your BTC Pay server is up or down, and then it will send you an email each time it is up or down. So that's a handy avenue if your internet connection goes down, or your electricity goes out, or at least you get some sort of notification that your customers won't be able to pay you because your BTC Pay server is down. So that might be something that you may wish to look into as well.